Welcome back to the Pre-Vetted podcast, where we spotlight extraordinary people and remarkable talent reshaping our world. Today we are joined by Apurv Naman. He's a product manager at NVIDIA, one of the most innovative companies in the world. He's based in California. Apurv has been contributing to advancements at the intersection of hardware, software, and AI. We're going to explore his journey into product management, his experiences into one of tech's most competitive environments, and his perspective on building products that drive impact at scale. Apurv, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi Federico. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you about, my journey and things I've been doing. And yeah, looking forward to this discussion.
Great. I'm honored to have you on the show today. So let's start talking about your journey. What first drew you to engineering and what did it mean to you at the start of your career?
Yeah, no, definitely that's a good question to start with. So believe it or not, like what drew me to engineering was like cartoons. So I used to watch a lot of cartoons like growing up, and then I would love this show called Jetsons. I don't know if you or our audience remembers this, but it was about like futuristic stuff of like flying cars or like humanoids doing stuff for you. And I always thought, man, that would be like so cool if we could have these things one day and I can live in the world which these characters are living in. And just my desire to, build those things, or like my love with like that was my first love with robotics, which moved on to cars. When I saw like the engines for the first time, I sat in the car and I've figured out mechanical engineering would be something that will open all those doors for me. So like automotive, robotics, anything that moves, anything that works out there, which I can feel and touch and is, innovative in its own sense.
Amazing. I love the Jetsons. I used to watch it when I was a kid. I'm still wondering where are our flying cars?
Yeah.
And instead of that, we are settling with having physical buttons on the vehicles, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, they are coming. They are coming. I wouldn't say they are far away. It's like technology is easier to solve, but the bigger question is around other stuff like regulations, insurance, and all those things.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you've seen this show called Futurama.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
So the creator of The Simpsons did this show called Futurama,
Okay.
and they have a spaceship, and they talk about that the spaceship, instead of traversing through space, the
Mm-hmm.
space is fixed and the universe is
Mm-hmm.
moving around it, right? And that's how this spaceship can go faster than speed of light, right? They kind of imply that, right? Anyway, I find it interesting that they mentioned that, because I always, when I saw the Jetsons, I was thinking, how do this car flies? Right?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah. No, definitely. It's like interesting, right? Like, so as I said, like technology always like fascinated me, from like watching cartoons to, Star Trek or Star Wars or like so on. I grew up with those shows and those things, and just whatever we imagine, eventually technology is what makes it possible. Like, think about video calling, right? Like we are doing it now. When I was a kid, I don't think so this existed, or like this was even accessible to people like us. But like I would read in like comics and stuff, and they would like show superheroes doing like a video call. And now today we are on a video call.
Right.
Yeah. So technology is like a paint through which you create the image that you can imagine, basically. So that's the way I put it. Like if you can imagine something, like not right now, maybe, but someone is gonna build it in the future.
Yeah, but I think it's the dreamers that envision what doesn't exist today,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what allow us to dream to the future and try to push where we are to get there, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I love science fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
On books, movies, because it's kind of that idea, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's wild when you see those movies, old movies, or what was edge at the time. Now it's obsolete, right? But from their perspective, it was the future.
Yeah.
I was watching a video recently where they were comparing how the implementation of video calls, you mentioned video calls on Star Trek, how accurate or not and what they missed. So yeah, I find all of that very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure like in that show they didn't have a PM to look into like all the features of video calls. So but now we have them.
So moving on, can you describe a moment in your engineering days that planted the seed to becoming a product manager?
Yeah, I would say it's like not one moment that could like put my finger on saying, oh yeah, like, this thing happened on this particular day at like 4:30 p.m. and I was like, I want to be a PM moving forward. But it was more like a gradual thing. So I started off as engineer, really loved my work, did my master's, started working in like autonomous vehicles, built like some really cool stuff, had some patents, and I was like enjoying my, work as well as my life was good at that time. And then I just grew with the technology and everything, and I wanted more control over things that I was building. And like I did not know like PM because the companies I've been working in wasn't like very agile, or they did not had like like product manager as a role. It was more like a water flow, like traditional engineering orgs. uh, but I wanted to be like more leadership based roles, more influential, and grow in what I'm delivering as a product, and have a say in what features I want to build or why we are building it. So the question of why, like there were sometimes requests coming in from leadership that we need this particular feature in this vehicle or in this algorithm. And I would always question that, like, why do we even need it? Or like, who is asking for it? Or maybe there's a better solution to do it, which is like a fair question. But at times I wouldn't get the answer to those kind of questions in my engineering days. And I was just like, yeah, that is a very good question. I'll get back to you. But right now we focus on doing this thing right now. So I think so things like that and drove me to doing an MBA degree, which was like, I want to gain more leadership skills and grow up in ranks and have more control over things that I'm building. And that's where I got introduced to this concept of like product management or how product management field works. I was in Berkeley in Bay Area, and product management is like all the rage over here. So I met with a lot of alumni who were doing product management in organizations like Meta, Google, even NVIDIA. And that like caught my interest. That's what I wanted to do, right? Like figuring out why, because that's what product managers do, is like find the question like, why do you want to build this thing, or like which thing do you want to build, based on those whys. So that's what led me to product management as like a field where I was interested in. And that's when I decided I want to do product management. And then I also interned with NVIDIA for my summers while I was doing my MBA. And I had a very good experience at the company, amazing team, very innovative culture. And I was like, this is something I want to do long term and as see it as my career. So I ended up working for them eventually.
Right. Right. Yeah, because on the technical side, we kind of try to answer the question, how can we make it happen?
Yeah.
And but we don't ask the question, what should we build?
Yeah.
Right. We focus on the how, not the what,
Yes.
or a little bit of the why, if you like, right? And then when you move to product management, you answer the question of what with a
Yeah.
why, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. How has the shift from engineering is things oriented versus product management is more people oriented, right?
Mhm.
How was that transition for you? Was that a challenging transition?
I wouldn't say it was challenging for me. As I said, like it's it kind of depends on the person as well. So I always wanted to be more out there interacting with people, like talking to customers or talking to stakeholders. And I always, as an engineer, even that was something I felt was even missing in my day to day, is like more interactive, more people facing responsibilities, more live like, talking to customers and talking to different stakeholders, getting their viewpoints, having those discussions or having like debates over things rather than building stuff, which was like, again, as I said, it was pretty cool, like great experience. And like I learned a lot from doing that. But just, I think so, I just have it in me of like going out there and talking to people. Even during my engineering days, I was very, I wouldn't say like extroverted, but like more driven towards like people oriented type of roles. So it wasn't like very difficult for me. I kind of just like fit in as a glove, I would say. I'll let my manager answer that question honestly. But yeah, I
Right.
would say I kind of liked it. Like as a job, like it never felt as a drag or like, something that drains my energy after like doing a week of product management. It's something that I look forward to, going into meetings where I know people are going to say, oh no, this is not going to work, or like we are going to have debates about, why my solution is like not the best one, or they have something better, or even like getting people aligned on having a decision saying that all of us needs to move in this particular direction. Like we don't need to do 10 different things. This is the right thing at this moment of time. And as a team, we should focus on that. So,
Right.
yeah.
You're mentioning something interesting that we usually think of product managers of deciding what to build,
Mhm.
but it is a nuance and a little bit more subtle. What you're saying is you're also deciding what not to build so you can
Mhm.
focus. We never see what hasn't been built. It kind of goes under the radar, but it's important because if you don't have focus on the product you're building, you're all over the place. You're wasting resources, right?
Yeah.
And you're not moving the product forward, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think so. As product management, like one of the things that like it's very overused, but it's basically the truth. Like prioritizing is your like main job as a product manager. How do you prioritize? Which thing do you prioritize for, and who do you prioritize for? Right. So that is one of the most important skill or like most important this work as you will do as a product manager. And yeah, you will go wrong definitely, or you can go wrong, but learning from those mistakes and then, trying to figure out like what's the best case. Like my concept in general is users. So understanding the users and then deeply getting to understand their pain points and then prioritizing on the user needs other than like other goals we have. Like, so if you build something for a user to make it like user friendly so that they use more, all other KPIs will follow, right? Like no matter what you're like, you want to look at monthly average users, you want to look at like revenue dollars, you want to look at like graphic card users or whatever, like, it's like as long as you build a product or a tool or a service that a user loves and they will keep on using it because it's solving one of their pain points, you're going to get the whatever metrics you are chasing after.
right. How did your technical background shape how you approach product management?
No, I think the technical background was really helpful when we talk about product management. I don't think so it's required for sure. It might be required in some roles in some companies, but having a technical background as a product manager anywhere helps me better understand my engineering team. And I like, there's one thing about understanding users and their user needs of like what they want, how they want, and then the other aspect is like understanding what can be done and how much time would it need if I want to pull something off like this, right? And engineers are also like coming back with their own ideas which are sometimes even better, right? Like they are amazing, or but I need to understand that idea, or like why it is better or where they are coming from. And sometimes some ideas are not good, and then you have to tell them in a way without like saying that this is not a great idea, but you have to exactly understand where the engineer is coming from, because how they are thinking about things, how they are looking at the problem, and how they came up with this solution to identify if it's a good solution or a bad solution or how to handle that situation. So I think so my technical background helps a lot in my day to day.
Amazing. What happens to me is that when I try to keep the balance, right? But sometimes I get too intrigued or attracted to the technical aspect. So I kind of go into this mode of, oh, this technology is cool, of
Yeah.
this feature is cool, right? And I kind of forget thinking about the user, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I realize that and I go the other way around, right? I think more on
Mhm.
the user, not much on how to implement it, right? So, and when I find that I'm going to those extremes, then I try to go back on finding the center, right?
Yeah, no, it's a balance, right? As you said, you have to understand. So, like, engineers are your main stakeholders. If you think about it, like, users are important, but there wouldn't be any product managers without any engineers, right? Like, you need to have them, and then they have like they are the one who are building stuff, who are help get you there where you want it or solving user needs. Like, as I look back at my time as an engineer, and whenever I talk to engineering managers and leaders, I think so. One thing that I very like particular about is like telling them why instead of just telling them we need to build this, or like things that I felt as an engineer, like why I'm being kept in blind. More than that, I give them the whole user story is like, see, like, I want you to build this particular feature in this product because, if you think about a user, he wants to do X, Y, and Z, and to do X, Y, and Z, he needs these kind of A, B, and C abilities. And if we want to enable these abilities 6 months or a year from now, we need to start up thinking about them now, and we need to build our infrastructure in this particular way. So laying it out like this, because I have both my technical background as well, I am connected to the users, is how you get alignment between different engineering team, marketing teams, pricing, UX teams, whatnot.
Right. So, talking a little bit about physical AI, which is something I'm very interested to discuss with you. Working on physical AI and humanoids feels like science fiction made real. What excites you the most about it?
Well, I think so. The same thing that I started with, like, it's technology that you can like feel and touch and you can interact with, right? Like, apps are like, I'm nothing against software or apps because they are driving the world anyways, but they make your life easier for sure, right? Like, you have an Uber app on your phone which helps you get a cab. But at the end of the day, it's the cab, like the technology in Uber app or whatever, you cannot touch or feel it. But like having an autonomous vehicle or a humanoid doing stuff for you, it just the physical fact of it is like, oh, you can sit inside a Waymo, or you can, you can grab the door and open it, or like you can be sitting in a Tesla behind a wheel doing its own driving. That aspect of like physical AI or just robotics is something that excites me a lot. And it just makes me like feel how, intrigued, like how like entangled we are when we have technologies that become part of our life roaming around. Like, just if you take an example of like the robot vacuum cleaner, iRobot, right? I just love it. It's such a simple technology, but it does like so much for me. And then I can see it looks cool, it's in my house, and then I can like hear it, see it, do it work, right? Those things is something that you wouldn't have with just like an app or like a chatbot, which again, they are amazing, they are what driving those hardware technologies in the end. But just the aspect of seeing them, able to feel them, hold them in your hand, makes me excited.
It feels almost like magic, right? When you
Yeah.
see, like these humanoid robots that can jump, walk up and down stairs and obstacles, right? I see those, and I mean, I know that there's a lot of software behind it, but my reaction is, oh, this is magic. It
Yeah.
feels like magic. It's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And the potential is like, if you think about, the potential is insane. Like, the industry, we haven't even scratched the surface of what is possible with physical AI. Like humanoids, in theory, if you have a humanoid that can behave as a human, you can automate subjectively or theoretically anything, right? Like anything in the world could be automated. like cooking in your house or like even driving. Like, do you need FSD like or self-driving cars? You can just have a humanoid sit behind a wheel and drive for you. But like maybe like that's not where we are headed. Like obviously self-driving cars without a humanoid are more effective. They don't have latencies. They are faster. They are purpose built, right? Which makes sense. But I'm just saying like it's the our world is built for humans. Everything is built around us for humans with like 10 fingers, 2 feet, 2 hands. And what if you can automate that, right? Now you have automated everything.
Yes, wouldn't that be great? I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I think so. It's one of the toughest problem to solve, and it's gonna be like that for a while. AI has enabled us to like unlock a lot of things that were not possible before. Like self-driving cars in itself is it was a complex problem. It's a problem that is well defined in some context, so it becomes easier in that way compared to humanoids, which is not well defined at this point. But again, it's when you start solving a problem, look into it, everything looks like monumental, but eventually you are able to solve it, and it's like the amazing feeling you get.
I've been observing the Waymos,
Mhm.
autonomous vehicles,
Yeah.
and I haven't got into one yet. There is
Yeah.
some sense
Yeah, we need
of
to change that. We need to get you on a way.
yeah. I mean, for me, it's unsettling the idea of not being able to grab the wheel, right? And I know it's probably a backward
Yeah,
thinking.
no, that's like you are with like thousands and like even millions of people out there. Like, that's a genuine feeling, and that's something definitely there's a product manager looking into that user experience and trying to make it as smooth as possible for people who have this issues. And like that's a genuine problem and that needs to be solved. But like once you have experienced it, you won't regret it, is what I would say. Like as a customer, as a user, I don't know about like something, but as a user I would say like first time I sat in it, like the way it drove, it was like why do I even have a car that I have to drive? Why? I've been working in automotive for a while and I hate driving. So
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. And I can see the benefit of getting into a car that drives you around, right? The stories of people that was horse riding and the horse would be able to drive, quote unquote, drive back home, right? When the rider was incapacitated, right?
Mhm.
There are many stories like that, right? So I can see the benefit, but that doesn't mean that I feel unsettling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the what I notice is that the Waymo vehicles has been very careful on the driving side, very careful on the driving. And I noticed recently that they have been more and more aggressive. They accelerate faster. They, take turns that, I've been observing that they wouldn't do that before, right? So I find that very interesting. And I think that's part of the development of the product that they're doing, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, those things will evolve, right? Like, if you would have been in initial stages of being in an AV, what would usually happen once we as humans figure out that this is an AV that's gonna follow all possible rules in the world that are laid out and it's a right and it's not gonna make a right turn unless, if you are on the crosswalk or, it's even if you don't have the cross signal on and if you step on the crosswalk, that car is going to stop no matter what. People start taking advantages of those things, right? Like even if it's not your right of way, you are blowing past a stop sign, the Waymo will stop it. It's not gonna honk at you or be mad at you, right? So once you get that understanding, people start adapting to those things, right? They would start like behaving in a certain way where they were like, oh, it's a Waymo. I don't care about my stop sign. I'll probably just blow past it, which is wrong on like so many levels. But we do that as human beings. So technology has to adopt in some way to change that perspective or change that driving behavior, or you keep getting stuck. So I was in a Waymo and it just like stood there because no one was giving it way to enter, right? Like it was trying to cut in and everyone was like super aggressive. It wasn't able to cut in. Like how you usually cut in is like you slightly start moving and then the person behind you gives you space how much like mad they are at whatever. But That's how it works. Now I sit in a Waymo, it's like aggressive. If it has to cut in, it cut ins like a human driver, like, just start chipping in and merges with the traffic, which is pretty cool. So yeah, these things evolve as we evolve with these things. So it's a dynamic problem, ever changing.
Right, right. And it's building this relationship between the users and the product, right? That it's something that is evolving, right? So what impact do you believe self-driving car would have in society and daily life?
So like, again, as I said, we are just like scratching the surface. Like, impacts are huge. Right now, like, we are able to drive, like, people, imagine people who are like old and their driving license or driving privileges have been taken away because they cannot see in night, or like it's like difficult for them to react. We are enabling them in some way or the other to drive, to mobility. I think so mobility is kind of one of the human rights. It's not there, right? Like, but it should be. You should be able to move and get to from place A to place B, to go to your favorite spots, to eat in your favorite restaurant, like, go to the movie that you wanted to watch in a theater without thinking of like, oh, I cannot drive, I don't have access to a car, or the parking is going to be intense, or whatever reasons you cannot drive. You should have. And I agree, public transit solves a lot of these problems, and public transit is one of the biggest solution and one of the biggest competitors for self-driving cars. But like, in my ideal world, combination of public transport and AVs for last mile door to door services is what is going to like save, like help us, or like improve our lifestyle, or help us get there where, like, anyone who's even blind can go and sit in a car and go to where they want to go. Or like, children, if they can sit in a car, like, you can book a cab for them without any safety concerns, because there is no driver in it. It's gonna be safe. It's school drop offs, school pickups, they can be automated, right? Like, we are not there yet, we are like ways beyond that, but eventually, if we get there, those things can increase our quality of life to the next level, right?
Yes, yes, I agree. I was talking with a founder that was proposing to use, he's building a platform so the car could do your daily chores, right? A self-driving car.
Yeah.
So negotiating with the vendors on the other side. So could go and pick up your medicine, and then a human would put it inside the car, right?
Yeah.
And things like that, or your groceries, right? Just the car shows up at the, at the grocery store, and then a human put it in your trunk, and then the car drives back to your house, right?
Yeah.
Or as you said, having, being able to put a kid in it and just, drive it to school, right? And there's so many things like that's interesting. And then you mentioned something interesting about public transport. My concern with public transport is sometimes you lose privacy. Having your own space sometimes become important.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you're going in your car to one place or to another, you're in your safe space, right? And within the car. So I see the benefit of that, and having this idea of a shared self-driving cars, which is a mix of public transport, but with a private space, that would be life-changing for sure.
Yeah, no, because like, that's like, there are problems to it too, right? Like, if you have a lot of like self-driving cars, the congestion is just going to go up. Like, cities won't be livable if they are littered with like these Waymos or Zooks or whatever is on the road. Like, and you cannot do it like for everyone. It's just how humans are. Like, we are like so many of us out there, and we have distinct needs. So no kind of like one solution that fits all is going to work. Like, there are people who argue like, why do we even need self-driving cars? Public transport is the best thing. And like, if you go to Singapore, very well connected, amazing public transport, right? And I went with my parents, and then they are like old, and they were having difficulty even walking to the public transport, right? From our house. What happens when it's raining, right? Like, it becomes even more difficult for them to do that. Even you cannot leave a child alone in public transport. However, like, Singapore is like amazing, super safe city. Still, like, I wouldn't trust anyone leaving my child with that. But I can do it with a self-driving car, which has like cameras in it, which I can also watch, or whatever technology we figure out to do that. So it's like there's no one solution that fits all. You have to go hybrid. You have to do something like which serves all our purposes and makes the city better and makes our commute better and makes our life better, right?
Right. Right. And I think that the other issue that public transport does not solve that self-driving cars would is routing. You
Mm-hmm.
kind of mentioned it about, your parents
Mm-hmm.
going to the public station
Yeah.
would be challenging, but then once you have the routes on public transit, they're fixed. So if you
Mm-hmm.
go to some other place, you have to,
Yeah.
to do combinations. Whereas with a self-driving car, you can set the destination and the car will be able to route towards that destination, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's in a closed loop, closed section, where you get into a vehicle that only deals with, like a little train, it only deals with other cars, the vehicles like them, right? Or it goes into the public roads, right?
Yeah.
So, but either those scenarios, the idea of avoiding routing, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
critical, right? Because then you have the flexibility to go door to door, right?
Yeah, like yeah, I agree. It's again, as I said, like it's more like product management as well, right? These things are going to be iterative. It's not gonna be like one company comes up with a solution and then everyone is like, oh, this is the best and that's it. Like even like imagine Facebook that we were all on 5 or 10 years ago. They keep changing. Technology is like that's the best part about tech, right? Or being in tech is like nothing is constant. You have to evolve, you have to change, you have to iterate, you have to make
Right.
things better, right? So like these solutions as we are talking about, like even like maybe these are not the best, so we don't know, right? Like we have to do maybe an A/B testing to figure that.
Right.
Yeah. So but like you have to like be iterative and find solutions and keep doing that. So which is pretty interesting and which is cool, and then I'm like excited to see where this world of like physical AI with these self-driving cars, humanoids, whatnot, like where it's gonna take us and how we are gonna evolve as a society. And yeah,
So how does working on products that move, that interact and with the physical world, how is that? That sounds fascinating.
it's challenging because so like with all this talk of iteration and improvement, room for error in these products are very minimal, right? Like if you think about it, like you can do an A/B testing on an app which might have an API call gone wrong and your user might not be able to log in. Okay, like what's the worst they could happen? They didn't get an cab without because they were not able to log in and they might have to use another app to do it, right? Like you lose a customer or what. Imagine like a self-driving car making a mistake. It can break or make a company, right? Like we have example of Cruise going down because they made a mistake and it didn't end up well for them. You can kill somebody potentially with physical AI. Like robots are like, they look feeble, but eventually like they are machines, right? Whatever you do, and they have potential to like physically harm you.
Right.
It can go bad in like so many ways. So the main difference I see with physical AI is like safety and traceability. That has to be like one of the top KPIs that a product manager or a team or even engineer has to always keep in mind when they build those things or deliver those things. So that is the most challenging part of working in a physical AI space compared to any other space we are in.
Right. Right. Yeah, because I've seen robots are using industrial engines,
Hmm.
motors,
Hmm.
and they have a lot of strength. So it will be very easy to, crush a human or break some arm or whatever, right?
Yeah, like even like if you think about your car, so there's like a motor in your steering wheel, right? That I worked on that too in my initial roles. And those things are like so they have so much power is like no human being can like oppose them. So if a steering wheel wants to go right, however like strength you apply on that wheel to turn go straight or go left, like you won't be able to do that. It's impossible humanly to do that unless you have a software that takes care of it, like which will just release the motor as soon as someone like nudges it or touches the steering wheel. So even your like manual, like the car that you drive today, if there's something goes wrong in that motor and it jerks towards right, like there is no way you are being able to pull it back to the position you have. The amount of torque it has is like insane. So we have a lot of technologies that is like technology which is way beyond like human strength, and you and we cannot override them. So you have to be like very safe about it. It's more like we take a lot of, so that's why we say a lot of lessons we have in aviation industry and automotive industry, I think so they're going to be applied to robotics, humanoids, and all those things when we look into those kind of things.
Right. I think that the situation now is that the level of innovation is ahead of regulation.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you a lot of the engineering. It gives the engineering a lot of freedom to experiment, taking risks, because
Yeah.
the regulations hasn't catch up to what are the things that you cannot do. And in, as you mentioned, aviation caught up, and unless you're doing a 103 experimental aircraft, which is a very limited category, for any other airplanes, you have to go through years of tests and certification before they deemed the machine flyable, right? And before you can actually fly. And then after you fly, you have to go through other tests, right? So that hasn't been invented for the self-driving cars, right?
No, for self-driving cars, it's there, right? Like there's a lot of regulation, like not everything, but we have a lot of regulations and a lot of like legal ways of getting approvals. Or it's like it's anything that's out there right now, like let's say Waymos or Zooks or whatever. Like I don't know the details, but I'm pretty sure like they have gone through very strict regulations and testing, validation to get them there. What
Right.
I'm saying, like humanoids is something that is untested for. We don't know. We're still figuring it out, right? That's, you don't have any humanoids in your house right now. So you have no idea
Right.
what to do. Yeah.
Going back to the Jetsons, I want the I know it as Robotina because I
Yeah.
was watching it in Spanish.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but the Robomate,
Yeah.
that would be so much fun to have.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, so that's what, like from aviation, like automotive industry is like very regulated. You
Right.
have to do like thousands of certifications, SAE levels, OBD compliances that you have to qualify in order to put a vehicle on the road. It takes years of work to get that done, and it's regulated. But like again, as technology evolves, those things weren't built for self-driving cars. They were built for having humans behind it. And our government is doing great job catching up, adding more regulations, and that's why we see these cars out there on the roads, or else you won't. But we have to do those things moving forward with like humanoids, robotics, all those things. Industries is a controlled environment, right? Like industries, it's a private place. You can train your workers to behave in a particular way around the robot. You can build like safety nets, laser gates that shut the robots off when someone enters, and things like that. But if you want to put your technology out there, physical technology out there in a public space, it's not regulated. Anything can happen. A kid can run on a road, or like a dog can like fall from, or like come from your side, or things can go wrong. A lot of things can go wrong, and you have to be able to respond to that and behave in a safe way.
Right. Do you see a human element, empathy, ethics, values playing a bigger role when designing AI that lives in the physical world?
So yeah, I think so that kind of moves into this conversation, right? What we were discussing. If you feel something, see something, same thing with empathy. If you think about empathy, as you said, like you are skeptical about sitting in a car where you cannot hold a steering wheel, right? So the first part, empathy, comes in like trying to understand that feeling, because if you are in the industry, you are working with it, you just get used to of like having an idea of car drive itself, because you know in and out how these things are built, or like what safety measures are there, or what protocols or they have been certified. But as a user, you don't have any idea what went through in like building those things. So that is an empathy that you have to come up with, and then you have features built around that so that you do that. There's a lot of research in behavioral science, which I think so every product manager should look at for any product they are building. You can do a lot with behavioral science. You can build nudges in your product that help a user guide or their experiences. So making the car a very friendly environment, or trying to, so initially there was this concept of steering wheel moving really rapidly. I'll give you an example. It makes it easier because if you're taking a right turn, you have to like do a rapid steering wheel turn, and that was making users very obnoxious because they were like sitting in a car which like their steering wheel was like moving a lot, or like it's what, and then there was other concept where the steering wheel was not moving at all. So you can possibly do that. It's steer by wire. The steering wheel is not connected to the rack or to the wheels. So you can have the steering in theory like being still there, and then your car going around. And that experience for users was like, this is unreal. Like I don't want to sit in this car. This doesn't feel very good. And then companies reverted back saying, oh, no, no, we need the steering wheel to move because user needs to feel or see physically what's happening in the car. If you don't move the steering wheel and car makes a right turn, they register it as an process or like what's happening. So they added features like this. Now we have cars that doesn't even have steering wheels, right? Like they
Right.
have, yeah, they don't even have steering wheel, they don't even have brakes, and that's where we are headed. But like it's slowly like trying to get user used to it. People who are using Waymo are, I would say, they are more likely to move to a car which doesn't have a steering wheel instead of someone. And then again, this is not backed against any data, so don't hold my word against it. It's my feeling. It would be difficult for someone from just going from driving their car to sit in a box that would drive them around, compared to if you let them sit in a car which has a steering wheel which is moving and you can see the car moving. So, and then next step would be going in a car with nothing in there. So yeah,
Right.
yeah, you have to get used to those things.
Yeah, I mean it's a transition. The people get used to things until there's this revolution or evolution that pushes towards a different mindset. And then because before that there's a lot of resistance, and then when people make the change of mindset, then everything happens faster, right?
Yeah. So that's the empathy part where you have to have empathy with the user of how they're gonna, feel about this thing and use it, and then those things. And then on the ethics part, like I think so there could be like essays written about it. Like how do you define ethics? Like there are frameworks that we use for ethics or establish on products that are interacting with humans and they can possibly cause harm to humans. And right now it's more about safety, about having universal overlay of like you shouldn't hurt a human being, like whatever happens, like that's the main arching like overview of a product that is in physical world, or like a robot or a FS car or like whatever. But eventually I think so these things have to evolve and be more dependent on like what use case you are trying to figure out, have better ethical frameworks, have better ethical thought process in building those products.
Right, right. I remember the story in New York
Mhm.
when they shifted out of horses into internal combustion engines, right?
Yeah.
And, before they had the issue that if a horse died, they would leave it dead on the street, right?
Okay.
So they had issues with that, and then with the manure, right? You have a
Mm.
lot of horses, you have a lot of,
Yeah.
poop, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
had that issue, right? That's why in New York the houses has stairs. You know,
I see.
it was to rise above
Okay.
the
Poop.
manure, right? Yeah, the poop. Yeah. When the car was introduced, it was a very quick shift towards vehicles, towards internal combustion engines. That a few years later, horses were outlawed
Mm-hmm.
within New York City. Right,
Mm-hmm.
because other than ceremonial horses, on Central Park, or the police has some horses, but other than that, you know, horses were banned from the city, right? So I believe that something similar is going to happen with, self-driving vehicles, that there's going to be a lot of resistance until you get to the tipping point where it's safe enough, people trust enough, and
Yeah.
then it's like, we don't want to go back, right?
Yeah. No, like that's gonna happen for sure. Like same with manual cars, right? Like we had manual cars and then now everything's switching to automatic. And like diehard fans who love driving manual, they still love manual. But like I would, I don't think so. I'll be pretty confident in saying like 95% of cars in America, North America, like right now would be automatic compared to anything. So like it's a gradual shift, like technological shift that's happening. That brings me back to my old point of like change, right? Like being in this work of like technology or being in tech, like you have to be very comfortable with change or like being open to, change. It's gonna happen. It's like everything would change. Like your users' preferences will change, your technology will change, your engineering workflows will change, and again, as a product manager working in tech, you have to understand this concept of like there's only one thing constant and that is change. And you have to be
Right.
very yeah, and you have to be very, used to like working in an environment that is going to change rapidly. And then AI has just like increased the pace of this change to next level.
Right. So, do you know about the three laws of robotics by Isaac Asimov?
Yeah, I think so. I've read it somewhere. Yeah, like do no
So,
harm yourself or something
yeah,
along those lines, right?
yeah. Do not harm, obey human.
Mm-hmm.
The robot must protect its own existence. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm wondering now that we're talking about humanoids
Mm-hmm.
and self-driving cars, do you feel that these laws of robotics are being implemented into the physical devices using AI?
I think so. Like, I think so. That's like first ever user stories written by someone for this field. If you think about it, right? Like, that's something that you start with. So I wouldn't say like they are hard coded, like in plain English, like don't do any harm or like obviously not. But like a lot of underlying principles that go around like these safety frameworks that we have or algorithms that take in account of like human safety or safety of other things or safety of the machine itself into account are based on that. Like I would say what he gave us was very rudimentary top level story points, but now what we are building is a very complex machine which have varied use cases, and I wouldn't say it's like just one of those two top three principles that's gonna guide us, but a very complex set of maybe decision trees or like distributed decision trees that you can imagine for like sake of imagining that will guide these machines or these robots, cars, all those things.
Right. Right. I think that those laws, those three robotic laws, are more philosophical than
Yeah, yeah,
practical, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it's great to write for the as a element to write the stories, right?
yeah,
Because you can talk about the laws, right, and things like
yeah.
that, right, and the conflict that generates. But in practicality, and as you mentioned, the complexity of the systems, not necessarily allow them to implement them,
Mhm.
like that. It's more embedded within other coding and software, right?
Yeah, yeah, and which is true, but like again, like I don't know history how he came up with those things or like how he thought about it. Maybe he was a genius. It's still to be seen. I think so. He was. That's why we know him. But yeah, it's like those are things that you have to keep in mind for like when you are working, and then that brings us back to your ethics and empathy question, right? We
Right.
need to have some guiding principles because these machines can do some real harm if they want to.
Right. We're running out of time, but first I want to appreciate you being here today. I think we learned a lot
Mhm.
about physical AI. But before we wrap it up, would you like to share some final comments?
Yeah, no, I would say like this was a good experience talking to you, Federico, and like, an exciting place to be in. Like, I'm blessed to be in like this working in this great company and on this like great stuff like self-driving cars or like humanoids, robotics, all those things. And I would say like it's it's like as I said before, is like, if you just my advice to, if some, I know your podcast is more about like product management and helping people, who want to be a product manager or break into this field or want to be better. I would say, like, one advice if I can give to any product manager in this time and date is like, you have to be very open to change and how we do things and what things we do, right? Like, especially in tech, it's like so much change around you and around the products that you see. And if you're comfortable with that, you will be a very, very good product manager.
Amazing, amazing. So Apurv, thank you for joining us today. And I'm looking forward to hear what you're going to build next.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Federico, for having me.